Now, Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is just 13 days away, just under 2 weeks away from its release by J.J. Abrams, that will actually allow the fans to realize exactly how the sequel trilogy is going to end and exactly how it's going to change the past 8 Star Wars movies that come before this one. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, there is no doubt about it that J.J. Abrams actually approached this film in a different way. In case you guys did not know, J.J. Abrams really needed a co-writer, Chris Terrio, in order to really fulfill the script of Episode 9. He couldn't do it on his own, and that's all because it was all last minute. In case you guys never remembered this, there was a time in which Disney and Lucasfilm had a director prior to JJ, and that, of course, was Colin Trevorrow. He was fired from the script and fired from the actual movie, working on it and all, and he was replaced with J.J. Abrams, and that's where everything pretty much progressed to JJ bringing on Chris Terrio as a co-writer. Now, what's really intriguing about The Rise of Skywalker is there is a lot of there is a lot of forms of damage control by J.J. Abrams in this movie, without a doubt, based on specific decisions that he has made and specific character decisions that he has made in the first, the second, and third acts. That's going to really reflect on the past Star Wars films, especially The Last Jedi. Now, specifically, it's explained that in the upcoming film, many revelations will be made by director J.J. Abrams that is actually said to change how fans view the prequels, originals, and even part of the sequel trilogy, and that even Star Wars lore will be changed. Now, ever since the release of The Last Jedi back in December of 2017, it's said that when J.J. Abrams was brought on to develop the latest Star Wars film around 2 years ago, he brought on co-writer Chris Terrio to patch and fix the idea of Rian Johnson killing off Supreme Leader Snoke. It's explained that J.J. Abrams needed to find a way to fix Rian Johnson's decision of killing off the main villain in The Last Jedi, and that by doing so, J.J. Abrams came up with a plan for Episode 9 to explain Snoke's death and why he died so easily by Rian Johnson's writing. Now, guys, we will be going into spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled about The Rise of Skywalker, I do suggest that you guys back out right now. Just a warning. Now, it's said that in the beginning of the film, when Kylo Ren travels to the world of Exegol, he travels inside of a large cube-like structure that is said to be Palpatine's base. He takes an elevator down, and here is where Kylo Ren comes across these large tanks or barrels. Inside each of these tanks are full of Snoke clones in the beginning of the film, and that this was JJ's way of explaining as to why Snoke was killed off so fast by Rian Johnson. It said that Palpatine was behind Snoke the entire time, and that this decision came from J.J. Abrams to patch Rian Johnson's idea of killing off Snoke in The Last Jedi. Since Snoke was dead, it's said that JJ was essentially forced to come up with a brand new villain, and what other easy way to fix would be other than Palpatine coming back into fruition here. However, the explanation of Snoke is that he was actually a puppet of Palpatine the entire time. Even the original director, Colin Trevorrow, states that Palpatine was never a part of the script at any point in time for his movie, and that this was all J.J. Abrams' idea. It said that this decision was made once J.J. Abrams was just starting to begin writing the script to end the Skywalker saga, where these Snoke clones in the very beginning of the movie are said to also be further explained in the upcoming The Rise of Skywalker novelization in March of 2020. That will dive deeper into the backstory of Snoke, creating the clones, and the real purpose besides Sidious using him as a distraction. Also, it's noted that J.J. Abrams was able to provide and develop the idea by looking into Star Wars Legends material, such as the Dark Empire comic line, where there were dozens of Palpatine clones that were actually made available to him to live on forever. It said that this is where the idea of the Snoke clones came from, and JJ took advantage of that to explain the decision of Rian Johnson of killing off Snoke, and to also explain a bit more on Palpatine in the beginning of the film that would reflect on The Last Jedi and the other forms of canon and lore that fall under Disney and pre-Disney material. Lastly, it's noted that J.J. Abrams had discussed this idea with Rian Johnson prior to filming or writing the sequence into the movie, and that this was all done as a form of damage control to the sequel trilogy, having poor revelations in the second film of the trilogy. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, obviously, bringing in Palpatine to The Rise of Skywalker was a form of damage control. He needed a brand new villain to take over the role of Snoke, but it wasn't Palpatine. Also, it was all about Snoke. It wasn't just about Palpatine. is that the development of these Snoke clones are essentially JJ's way of fixing Rian Johnson's mess of what he did to Snoke in The Last Jedi. Now, I completely understand if a lot of you guys out there disagree with me and you think that this is a very clever revelation by JJ, in which I will admit it is a shocking revelation to an extent. The fact that Palpatine was behind Snoke the entire time. The fact that Palpatine was controlling Snoke. But at the same exact time, it really sounds like, obviously that this was not the original plan by Rian Johnson, and obviously here, J.J. Abrams used this as a way of, as patchwork essentially, as a form of damage control of fixing Rian Johnson's decision of killing off the main new villain in, of course, The Last Jedi. You guys may remember that way back when there were interviews by JJ and other actors out there like Andy Serkis saying how Palpatine is absolutely dead, there's no chance of him coming back, and how Snoke was essentially the brand new villain of the sequel trilogy. J.J. Abrams states, recently that there were little ideas here and there of bringing back Palpatine, but I still don't even buy that after what Kathleen Kennedy said of how Palpatine was in the cards ever since 2014. That obviously was not the case, because this was actually said by Colin Trevorrow that Palpatine was never a part of his script. This was all JJ's idea at last minute. So you can see the damage control, you can see how throwing in Palpatine was basically their way of really luring in the fans and really kind of just tying directly, this movie into the prequels and the originals. Now, with that being said, the only problem that I do have with Palpatine's return in this movie is that there is, yes, going to be a scene in the film in which he dies by the hands of Rey. And not just by the hands of Rey, but he also dies by his own power being reflected back at him by, of course, using his Sith lightning. So that's one thing to actually, know about, is that it's not going to be Kylo Ren who defeats Sidious, a Skywalker family member. It's going to be Rey of all people. Now, the Snoke clones, I will say, very interesting at heart, but you can already know here that this was all patchwork. This was a form of damage control by J.J. Abrams. There's no doubt about that. Obviously, like I just discussed, J.J. Abrams, wrote this idea in to fix the idea of Snoke being killed off so fast with no explanation of his backstory, and that right off the bat, the very beginning of this movie, the first 5 minutes, everything will be laid out that Snoke was a clone and that Palpatine was behind all of it. And there's actually said to be a line of dialogue in the film where Snoke actually states, "I am Snoke," kind of reflecting "I am the Senate" in a metaphorical sense, right? So when we look at this idea by JJ, I can see where he's coming from, but at the same exact time, it is at the end of the day damage control. There's no denying that. If they wanted to explain this, let's say, for example, at another point in time in The Last Jedi, they could have done that, or at the very minimum, they could have done Palpatine clones. I don't know why he skipped over that. They could have just done Palpatine clones, and that could have very well explained that the original Palpatine did in fact die, but he transferred his essence into clones of himself. So this decision, it kind of does mess with the EU, and it also messes with the idea of that they even had a chance to bring back Palpatine where it would not be the original Palpatine. If that makes sense to you guys, I'm trying to make it clear here, is that basically it was a missed opportunity, and they took advantage of that opportunity anyway, but used the wrong character to say things simple, simple there. They used Snoke, but they could have used the idea of the clones for Palpatine instead. This way, I think fans would have understood it a little bit better and would have accepted Palpatine's return a bit better, because then the original Palpatine was dead by the hands of Darth Vader. It's just that he was able to transfer his essence into clones. So that's everything there is about, the beginning of this movie and how J.J. Abrams had to patch ideas that Rian Johnson laid out in The Last Jedi by killing off Snoke, etc., etc. So with that being said, I would love to hear your input about all of this below in the comments, what you guys think about this situation. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are Night alone, we hear